This is Beyond the Veil with Norman Meredith.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Norman coming to you from Pickens, South Carolina with another episode of Beyond the Veil. And lurking in the background will be my partner, Ed, occasionally throwing in some quirks and maybe some information. So, how y'all doing tonight? We're going to talk about some interesting news that came out. And it's, everybody thought the infamous dictator Adolf Hitler died in a bunker back in the 1940s because he lost the war. Now, what if I told you the current Argentinian president just came out within the last 2 weeks and said, no, folks, he did not die. He escaped from Germany and was living peacefully till 1960 and fathered 2 daughters. Yeah, that's what I said. Wow. Now, see, over the years, there's been unconfirmed rumors of Hitler living in Argentina. Some people have reportedly seen him in the distance. Some say they even met him. And there's even a report of him being seen, but this was in 1971 in a villa-type house, as they call it, in Colorado mountains. But this was around 1971, but he's already been dead in 1960. So that would have been impossible for it to have happened. But it was just amazing that this occurred. And now, why would our government or allied governments allow Hitler to escape from Germany, flee to Argentina, and remain alive? The most ruthless dictator to ever live, next to, say, Stalin, Pol Pot, Saddam Hussein, and get away with it. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to tell you why I think they did it. One was technology. We got a lot of technology above board, mostly pertaining to rockets, but there was also technology related to pharmaceuticals, weapons technology that we don't technically know about. We received information about the Glock Bell, the UFOs that William Nighthawk's father had seen, the various types, the Glock Bell, which was a time travel / spaceship, the Foo Fighters, the original stealth fighters that existed. Hitler had his hands in a lot of things. If Hitler had never did what he'd done, but turned his energies to peace and not chosen to make an example out of Jews, Gypsies, Slavics, and people he considered undesirable, but found another outlet and used his energies to bring his people together in another way short of hate, he would have been a great leader if he'd done that. But instead, he took the path of power, greed, egomania. And do you know what might have caused this, folks? Do you know what might have caused why he did all this?
Syphilis.
Exactly.
Messing with the brain. Al Capone disease.
Yes, very true. That may have been the whole reason why he did it. It was because his brain was riddled with syphilis. And this was messing with his mind, how he seen things, saw things. It would explain the temper tantrums he was having, his mood swings, I even understand he had problems with sexual desires and ability to perform. And I'm not going to even go into some of the things that supposedly he did or wanted done.
Some of the other things, too, is what they offered the Nazi soldiers, just the general army, and the SS, was Pervitin. Pervitin, nowadays, we would call methamphetamine.
Exactly.
So that would talk about, or rather, that would describe his erratic behavior, his mood swings. He was known to have been shot up 2, 3, 4 times a day because the pills were not doing what they're supposed to do.
Exactly.
And that totally messes with your brain. If you compare that to or add that to the fact of trying to make a larger Aryan race, even though he was a quarter Jewish, ironically,
Yes.
that he would have had a lot of sexual partners. Lebensborn was a place where the top Aryan, blonde hair, blue eyed, 6'2" or taller soldiers would go to procreate with German women who were thought to be stout,
Right.
teapot style women that were the perfect woman for the new race and new world order.
Right. Did you know that Ritalin is sort of a spin-off of Privitin?
Pervitin, Ritalin, Adderall, they are all one, no joke, they are one bond and one extra half a molecule away from being like street grade methamphetamine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And supposedly, now this is speaking as an EMT and such, a lot of supposedly, now don't hold me to this, folks, is that some young kids that are on Ritalin or Adderall, not all of them, but some sometimes turn to meth as they get older.
Oh yeah, it's just like a lot of people who are on heroin now. Well, why are they on heroin? Because they had a prescription, an opioid prescription from, and you'd be surprised because a lot of, man, that guy in school, he was such a great athlete. He is super smart. Well, I'm going to tell you what will pain do? Pain will make you turn to opioids. Athletes get injured. They get given opioids for the pain. And then when they are out of opioids, they move over to heroin. Now, to remain smart, you have to hide it really, really well. So that's where your erratic behavior comes out, the mood swings and things like that.
Right. And do you know what the basis of heroin is?
Poppy.
Morphine.
Yeah, from the poppy plant.
Exactly. It all ties together. I mean, believe it or not, Germans were the leading nation in pharmaceuticals up till World War II.
And a lot of people don't understand that Bayer, Bayer, was a German company, and they actually manufactured Zyklon B, which was the gas canisters. They made them in giant tablets like this, and they would melt when the oxygen hit them and turn into gas, and they put it into the chambers in Auschwitz, Bergen-Belsen, and all of the other concentration camps.
Exactly.
So Bayer aspirin, yes, is that. Even NASA today was founded by German scientists.
Yes, Werner von Braun.
Yeah. So we gave some a pass in World War II, and others we executed post-Nuremberg trials.
Right. Now, the other reason, too, for the possibility of allowing Hitler to escape is because he had vast intelligence networks into Russia. And somebody thinking ahead at the time, which was Director Dulles, he was in charge of the OSS at the time, and it later became the CIA. They needed those intelligence assets that were already pre-placed in Russia by the Germans. And then the people that were going to be left behind, that were already behind enemy lines per se, behind in Russia, that were still there, they needed those assets. So they had to play nice to get these assets together, And so a lot of horse trading, I guess you could say, went on. And so the cremated body, because for a long time now, the Russians said, yes, we had his body, but there's always, even the Russians are saying they weren't exactly 100% sure that was his remains they found.
And some say they tested it and it came back as female DNA.
Yes. So that could have been Eva's or somebody else's DNA. They never could say that was Eva's DNA because I don't think they ever tested for that.
Plenty of specials too that you can look up anywhere and just type in Germans in Argentina. And I watched Finding Hitler, and they actually go down to Argentina, and their people speak Spanish with German accents.
Yes, and
they people still speak German. There's German style made homes.
Yes,
that are there. They were there 1,000,000%.
And at one time, their uniforms reflected
Hitler Youth,
the German while the German Heer, which was the regular German army, the helmets, the field uniforms.
I believe it.
They all reflected all that because a lot of money, especially gold, was flowing into before the war, during the war, and in parts, some of it after the war was still going in. And do you know who was helping them do this? Not besides the OSS, the Catholic Church.
Catholic Church, yeah. I wouldn't put it past the Americans as well.
Well, of course the Americans were, because they were looking at the intelligence and all that technology they were gaining.
And I'm wondering too, was it primarily that they went via submarine or they hit in a ship somehow? I've heard stories of German submarines were spotted off the coast of North Carolina, and they were well close enough that they could get radio frequencies and listen to American music in a German sub during World War II.
There was 2 German submarines that turned themselves in a couple weeks after the war ended. And if I recall correctly, they never said where they went, what they did, and what their orders were. Interesting. Also, there was a German, it was called a Condor transport-like plane. It disappeared along with this SS general who was over technology and stuff. He worked on the Glock Bell, the stealth fighter, you name it, special projects. He disappeared, as well as this Condor transport plane. Now, some people believe OSS worked out a deal and he went over to America, and that's why you never seen him again. But then again, also that guy and Hitler could have fled that way. But what we're going to do is we're going to show you a video clip from Redacted. You can find these folks on YouTube, Facebook, X, and we're going to let these folks tell you the story of Hitler Found.
Adolf Hitler didn't kill himself in a bunker in Berlin as the Red Army closed in. I think we all know that was a fabricated story, or if you watch this show, you probably understand that. Hitler actually fled Germany weeks before that using a group of underground tunnels that led to an airstrip, and that airstrip was flown. He was flown from Berlin out. It took submarines, or multiple submarines that were used, U-boats that were then sent to Argentina. In other words, Hitler lived for nearly 2 decades more in Argentina, along with vast numbers of the Third Reich. Well, now Argentinian President Javier Milei has just ordered the release of all remaining documents on all of those Nazis who fled Germany and moved to Argentina after World War II. Basically, it was almost like a second base of operations in Argentina. If you're not familiar with that, like basically the Third Reich operated out of Argentina and Germany. And many of them, including Adolf Hitler, lived in Argentina well after 1945. Most people know that Hitler lived out his days in Bariloche, Argentina, until he died there in the mid-1960s. Yes, you can read the CIA documents about this, the FBI documents also about sightings of Hitler in this area. They knew about it. Of course they knew about it. It was largely facilitated, I think it's safe to say, by the United States and its allies. Operation Paperclip, anybody? Quid pro quo?
Also, if you look into this, the skull that is held in Russia that was supposedly the remains of Adolf Hitler with a bullet wound in it is female.
Yeah.
So when you look for proof that Hitler did in fact kill himself in the bunker, you are going to find a lot of dead ends.
Yeah, and all you need to read, you can read a great book on this called The Gray Wolf. It's a great book. There's many books written about this now. But yeah, the skull, the fragments, they ran the DNA tests on it, and the Soviets allowed them to do this testing. And even Stalin openly talked about that Hitler lived. He was not there, so Stalin even knew about it. It's widely known in Argentina, by the way, well known, that Hitler sired 2 children while he lived in Argentina.
All right, it's interesting that he mentions 2 children. We jokingly say Hillary Rodham Clinton is one of his daughters, and I have not checked into that because I don't want to open up a can of worms and accidentally be found dead. But the other one is, and this is a very popular, I'm going to say rumor, theory, that Chancellor Merkel is his daughter. There's been some pictures showing the likeness of Hitler holding a young girl in his lap, and the facial features, when compared to Chancellor Merkel's, are very, very strikingly similar. And, it was like she came to power in Germany to take the place that her father had. And this is one of the pictures if you look of this young lady and look at Merkel, oh my Lord, don't they look very similar? You know, take out the bags from underneath the eyes, but the facial features, the nose, the eye sockets, how the position of the eyebrows are. You know, it's very possible that Merkel could be a child of Hitler's. But the only way you can truly tell that is to do DNA. And I don't think Miss Merkel's going to give up any DNA. And believe it or not, there is living relatives of Adolf Hitler because some of them were living in England, believe it or not. He had a brother and a sister that survived the war and basically lived in England. And one did live in Germany for a while until the war ended and she tried to leave. And then the U.S. government, British government stopped her and then did a whole bunch of questions and whatnot. He loved his sister and all that. And here's a good thing. You know, Hitler's family wasn't always known as Hitler. Now, you're going to laugh when I tell you. The last name was Schnickelpucker. So can you imagine Hitler coming to power as Adolf Schnickelpucker?
I couldn't.
His stepfather changed the family name. And then from doing a little bit of reading, the family name, his stepfather may have actually been his father. It's convoluted on the whole thing that, you know, his stepfather may actually been his father, but, you know, it was just all sorts of things. And the biggest stigma that bothered Hitler was the fact that he thought he was part Jewish, that he was cursed, you know, because he just had some messed up things going in his head. But like during, you know, everybody may know, he did serve in World War I. He did raise the rank of corporal. He earned the Iron Cross First Class that was awarded to him by, get this now, a Jewish officer. And because of this, during World War II, any Jewish male that served in World War I and earned an Iron Cross was exempt from the death camps, but their families were not. Did you know that?
Did not know that.
Yeah.
Makes sense, though.
Mm-hmm. He honored the fact that they fought in World War I for the fatherland, but their families had to go to the concentration camps. I mean, he had some possibilities. If his mind was not riddled by syphilis and I think some other things, he could have been a great man if situation was different. Plus, did you know the reason he came to power was not because he wanted to? He was actually put up to it by German intelligence to spy on the political groups and to infiltrate. He was still working for the army. And that's how he got into this position.
Real quick, did you want to check out this one picture? I think it's a family lineage, and we have a letter as well.
Let's show it. Let's go ahead and put that up. Now, this is the family lineage. Now, you see Adolf Hitler. Then there's Herlin Kanner, which is his sister. And Horst Kanner, if I remember right, was his brother. They changed names. And Merkel, let me back up a minute. Merkel is supposedly the daughter of Kanner and Kanner. And then Maria Jelly Rubel, I think that was his sister. But then you see Scheckelgruber was his original name. And then there's the grandmother or mother was named Polizei, Clara Polizei. Then it changed to Hitler. And then Scheckelgruber changed his name to Hitler because originally they were Rothschild and Scheckelgruber again. It's one big mess. So in a sense,
Rothschild.
Yeah, there's a Rothschild in his name.
That's crazy.
I know. There's a lot of conspiracy theories about Rothschilds. You know that, don't you? Especially the banking, world control, Illuminati, all sorts of things. So, Merkel is a child of Kazner, and who is a child of Angela Marie Jelly Rubal, who is also supposedly mistress of Hitler.
Who knows?
So then,
Interesting stuff, though.
yeah, I mean, it's enough to make you scratch your head and go, okay, where are we at now on this trail?
What is this letter about right here?
This is, let's see, acting chief. Okay, bring this up a little bit. I think this was what they're talking about Hitler in it, if I recalled right. And then the second one was about saying it. Biden was a terrorist. Let's see here. Adolf Hitler. Let's see. Reportedly found neither trusted friend is serving under his command, presumably residing. Okay, it's telling where Hitler's at. This is the CIA memos telling where Hitler is, where he's living.
He left Colombia for Argentina around January 1955. Citizen connected that inasmuch as 10 years have passed since the end of World War II, the Allies could no longer prosecute Hitler as a criminal of war. So that's why he left Colombia. And then so they went from Germany, obviously prior to Poland, from Poland, the water, down to Colombia. And then after 10 years in Colombia, went to Argentina. That's what it's saying.
Yeah. So this is just a note from the CIA. Now remember, the predecessor to CIA was the Office of Strategic Services, which was created by Roosevelt, led by Wild Bill Donovan, who later Bill Dulles, I think it was, or David Dulles, last name was Dulles, created the CIA because they thought they didn't need the OSS, and the CIA came in. And
He had an airport named after him in D.C.
Yes. And they created, and so they kept their fingers and everything. There are stories we all know about the CIA. Some are true, some are myth, and some are in black areas that you may never know about. So what it's saying is basically that Hitler lived, he was doing all this stuff, and he was left to be alone. But, as the greatest war criminal, there should never have been a limit of expiration for his war crimes. You know what I'm saying?
Like a statute of limitations.
Yeah, no statute of limitations.
Because it's murder.
Yeah, he committed genocide.
I mean, you look at Charles Manson. Charles Manson didn't pull the trigger on anybody.
He talked his followers into doing it.
Well, that's what Hitler did, but on a multi-million person scale.
Exactly.
Crazy.
And then, the thing is that, the biggest thing at the Nuremberg trials was I was following orders. So
Did they violate the Geneva Convention, or did Geneva Convention come after World War II because of World War II?
Geneva Convention.
I thought that was in World War I.
Geneva Convention came after World War I because of the gas was the primary reason, because gas being used for the first time in the field of combat, and the machine gun.
Mustard gas.
Yes, mustard gas. And then you had the Maximum machine gun, the Lewis machine gun. And these were used not as solo weapons, but entire companies of machine guns. We're talking 30 to 40 to 50 machine guns on a line, firing at one time, and then just cutting down soldiers by the hundreds.
I mean, that's a whole nother podcast. It's like, why is war necessary? Like at all, and if there is war, there shouldn't be rules. You know what I'm saying?
War is
it's crazy.
War is the result when politicians can't resolve something, basically. Well, we're going to leave it at that, but just to let you know that Hitler supposedly did live. He did manage to sire 2 children. One of them was Angela Merkel, and supposedly, according to rumor, Hillary Clinton is the other. Because they never mentioned the second one. But, people always say Miss Clinton was the second one. Just she came a little later in life. But I'm going to leave those thoughts to y'all folks to think about.
And if I can add.
Go ahead. You can.
Hillary Clinton's pretty good at being a fascist.
Isn't she, though?
Like Hitler. It's crazy methodologies, thought processes, and she's not illogical knowledge.
And supposedly not afraid to get rid of her opponents.
Must run in a family.
A lot of her opponents have accidentally died or suicided.
disappeared.
You ever notice that?
All the time.
All right, folks, we're going to leave it off here tonight. And I'm thinking about doing another episode again on portals because I'm seeing more and more small video clips of portals opening up on streets where people disappear or walk out of. And I think that might be a interesting topic to talk about is portals now, especially when we're still having the UFO flap in the Northeast. People seeing portals or something opening up where UFOs or drones flying through them and disappearing. And just, Skinwalker Ranch is a good example of the portals being talked about. And I think this will be a wonderful topic to talk with about the mysterious things about portals. And I think that would be an interesting subject, especially some of the film clips that are out there. And remember, be careful about what you do watch on X, Instagram, Facebook, or wherever you get your media from. There's a lot of AI-generated stuff now, so be careful what you see. Ask questions. Do research into something, and don't take everything you see for granted. So Ed and I are going to leave you off tonight with thank you for joining us here on Beyond the Veil. We thank you for your patronage, and we look forward to seeing you next week on another episode of Beyond the Veil with me and my partner, Ed. We all wish you to be safe and stay sound.